Well, we start with chapter 12, which is the end of my one phase of my life and the beginning of another phase of my life. I got married in September of '61, and I lived in Sunbury, Pennsylvania. I almost forgot the state. It's been so long ago. And I guess the best way to start the chapter is to start by saying the words, Daddy Little? Who would ever have thought of Daddy Little? Anne Catherine Little, my #1 daughter, was born in the Sunbury Hospital August 19th, the year after we got married. Patrick Francis Little III, note the name? That totally insulted the Dewey family. But it just goes to show you, I'm not easy to control with tradition, with anything actually. And I named my son after my father for a reason which you'll hear later. He's my #1 son, and he arrived exactly a year after Annie arrived. They were beautiful. They were fun. They were so cute. They were everything in my life. They just made me laugh. I was amazed at my new role as a husband, a protector, and a father. I was absolutely in awe. I was a daddy, and I swore to God they would never call me Pop. Upon graduation, I was offered a job as the local swim coach and physical director at the new Sunbury area YMCA. They never heard of swimming before. They had a pool, but they never heard of competitive swimming. It was where Kay grew up and where we lived during my last year at Bloom. Kay taught first grade after she graduated, and I commuted to school at Bloomsburg and then another 11 miles on to Berwick, Pennsylvania for student teaching. Student teaching was the best indoctrination I could ever imagine to draw me into the teaching as a career. My first day at student teaching was the day Dag Hammarskjöld, the head man at the United Nations, was killed in a plane crash in Africa. I listened to it on the radio. I always had the news on. I still do. The world was nuke crazy, and veiled threats arose over all the news all the way to school. I reported in to the office and then to Mr. Sobak, a very scary looking guy who taught 7th grade social studies. He looked at me, he said, "Are you ready to teach today?" I looked at him and I said, "What do you want me to teach?" He said, "Well, first, before you even think about teaching, do you realize it's state law that you have to read the Bible to all the students first thing every morning and then teach the class?" I said, "Well," I just blanched. How do I start? He said, "Did you listen to the radio on the way to school?" I said very cautiously, "Yes." He said, "Well, then teach the kids what you heard." Well, he went to the back, sat in the class. I greeted the class and then introduced myself. I wrote my name on the blackboard. I picked a verse about Armageddon. I turned and I wrote under my name on the blackboard, "In case of nuclear attack, go outside and watch. It's the last damn thing you will ever see." I turned back facing the grinning kids and began to tell them about the events I heard on the way to school. I saw Mr. Sobak in the back of the room drop-jawed. And at the class break, he came up to me and said, "Tommy, you are a natural." And I knew I was going to get an A from that very moment on, because I taught every single class after that for the entire term. And we ended up just best of friends. So I had options, and I knew it. I could easily work anywhere. I could teach or I could bartend. That could get me through life. But now I've been offered a chance in my new town, in my new life, to build a brand new amateur athletic union swimming movement within an old conservative Sunbury area farming community. Wow, that was exactly my kind of challenge, because I knew absolutely nothing about it or where to begin. So I started with 5 11-year-olds, and 2 years later, I had an entire age group team of 83. Among them, AAU Mid-Atlantic first place championship team of 13-year-old All-Stars. My secret was that after getting totally clobbered in the first real race of the season in the AAU meets, and then severely chastised in front of all the officials by the meet director for bringing such inexperienced swimmers to a championship meet. They took last place in every event. I convinced the parents driving home to let them train with me at 5 a.m. every weekday morning and again at 3:30 in the afternoon during the school years. The following year, we went to the exact same meet, and guess what? My team won every single first place gold medal in the annual AAU Mid-Atlantic Championships. And that was where I met a local celebrity named Bob Madsen. He was an actual U.S. Olympic team swimmer and coach of the hometown Wilmington, Delaware swimmers. We talked shop and we counted our medals and trophies at all the AAU meets, and he constantly ragged on me about moving to Delaware. He often talked to me about teaching and coaching in his own hometown, with the two of us having swimming competition against each other, because there was no competition in Delaware either. We joked about it often at meets. We thought we were going to have some fun. And did I actually say at my wedding, I swear I will never drink again? Did I say that? I always was haunted by the image of my father on that slab in the mortuary. I was physically and emotionally scared to death of alcohol, yet much too macho to allow myself to think I drank too much. Pretty typical of all alcoholics. Drinking is what we men do. I often exclaimed to anyone, any place, especially out loud, I don't trust anyone that doesn't drink. But the haunting of my father won. I made a final decision the night before I got married to quit completely after walking around the empty streets of Sunbury, Pennsylvania all night long before I took my final vow. But I decided it's time, and I decided to make a life promise to my new life partner. So when the time came for the cheers and the toast at my wedding, I turned the glass upside down and said, I'll never drink again. Kay almost passed out when she heard me say it. She often said afterwards, if she ever needed a drink in her entire life, it was this particular night. And I wouldn't even have any champagne as the traditional toast because I wanted to start this partnership off in the right way, sober. I also wanted to make a sincere statement to everybody I knew as a personal wedding gift to my wife that I thought she was worth it. So I started our new life in Sunbury as a non-drinker. It went very well, not drinking that is. I started on the swimming team in my senior year and I was elected captain. I received straight A's not only in my classes but in the student teacher assignment and in all my courses. I became the local Sunbury swimming and judo coach and was eventually hired upon graduation as the new physical director at the area YMCA. I was the local jock and I loved it. A year and a half later, a guy named Tommy Little, he didn't use a IE on the end, he used a Y, the only difference between us. And I knew him from working in the restaurant where Kay worked during the summers, Bob's on the boardwalk. No kidding, he had exactly the same name, just spelled it different. He went to Temple University and he invited me to do a judo demonstration for their physical education classes. I was to be paid $75, but I needed, partners to throw. So Doc Marlette and Perry Swinehart, both who trained with me regularly at the Y in Sunbury, would be my fall guys. They both learned to break fall real well, and they learned to look pain after each throw in the demonstration exactly like I used to do at Parris Island. And the Gint learned to do at Bloomsburg. That's Bill Ginty. We did a full-blown judo demonstration for the physical education department and we got paid. We were pros and we felt great. After the demonstration, Doc said, let's go have a drink and celebrate. We have a 3-hour drive back to Sunbury. I suggested Crane's, my old drinking hole in Germantown. Doc and Perry never heard of Crane's. They couldn't believe the size of the drinks that came in water glasses. I had a ginger ale. Doc asked, why don't you drink? I said, I don't know, I just don't. And then as an instinct came right out of my mouth, the next round, just to be macho in front of everybody, I ordered a Scotch neat. I grinned, Cheers. Truthfully, to this day, I cannot believe, after a year and a half of total sobriety, I tossed it all away to impress someone in a bar, and that I had just been physically thrown all over Philadelphia, and I needed to drink to make a point. Yikes. Perry threw up all the way back to Sunbury, and I drove. Doc slept most of the way. We had one hell of a night out with the boys, drinking, saying fuck out loud, and having a good old time together. Other than my new in-laws, Frey and Catherine Gaglione, mentioning it with studied curiosity, no one really seemed to notice or give a damn that I started drinking again. No one seemed to notice I had taken a really liking to whiskey. So Tom and Kay Little became anxious to gather up the family and head for Delaware. Tom, to start over again as judo and swim coach at a suburban Brandywine high school, while teaching a brand new course starting at the school called sociology for seniors. Kay, to add one more little to the littles, and to live in a delightful suburban dollhouse in Deerhurst, Delaware. Sociology. Can you believe sociology? I flunked sociology. And the next chapter is part 3, Welcome to Delaware, the first state.